The United States has just increased tariffs on $18 billion worth of Chinese products. These Sino-American trade tensions open up new perspectives for Africa. Between risks and opportunities, African countries must navigate skillfully to preserve their economic and geopolitical interests while continuing their path towards a sustainable energy future. Although Africa is not directly involved in this trade dispute, its economic dependence on the two giants makes it particularly vulnerable. According to 2022 data, trade between Africa and China reached a record high of $282 billion, while that with the United States stood at $64.3 billion a year earlier. A contraction in Chinese economic activity induced by new U.S. trade barriers could affect Chinese demand for African raw materials, a key sector for many economies on the continent. As an example, Angolan crude oil exports to China accounted for almost 67% of total Angolan exports in 2020. Likewise, a slowdown in Chinese investments in Africa, which amounted to more than $43 billion between 2013 and 2020, could slow down the development of industrial projects on the continent. The energy transition. Among the products targeted are strategic sectors for African sustainable development, such as electric vehicles, lithium-ion batteries, and solar cells. These measures could hamper efforts to promote renewable energy and sustainable mobility on the continent. Take the emerging electric vehicle market as an example. According to the International Energy Agency, sales in Africa are expected to see an annual growth rate of 24% by 2030. Reaching 5.4 million units that year. However, new barriers on Chinese vehicles could slow this dynamic by limiting access to affordable technologies. Additionally, Africa is home to large reserves of critical minerals like cobalt, lithium, and graphite, essential for battery manufacturing. Raising tariffs on these products could disrupt supply chains and affect the prospects of a local battery production industry. Diversified impacts depending on the country. Some African countries could be more exposed than others. In 2022, South Africa exported $8.5 billion worth of minerals and metals to China. The DRC, the world's leading producer of cobalt, exported around 90,000 tons of this ore to China in 2023. Zimbabwe, a lithium producer, exported 1,200 tons the same year. Namibia, an exporter of uranium and zinc, sent $1.2 billion in minerals to China in 2023. As for Morocco, it exported $1.5 billion worth of phosphates used in batteries to this country in 2022. However, Morocco could also benefit from this situation, thanks to its free trade agreement with the United States and its efforts to attract Chinese investment in the manufacturing sector through special economic zones and industrial parks. Unlike AGOA, which limits African countries to the stage of supplier of raw materials, the free trade agreement between Morocco and the United States allows the kingdom to diversify its exports towards higher value-added products. Thanks to this privileged access to the American market, Morocco has been able to develop competitive industrial sectors such as automobiles, aeronautics, and green technologies. This bilateral agreement thus offers Morocco a strategic lever to accelerate its industrialization and attract foreign investments, including Chinese, in promising sectors. For his part, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa insists on the need for AGOA to go beyond simple trade preferences. He urges Washington to support the development of African value chains so that the continent does not remain confined to the rank of simple producer of raw materials, a crucial issue for the strategic sectors of renewable energies and sustainable mobility dependent on African minerals. Major geopolitical issues. Since its adoption in 2000, AGOA aimed to stimulate trade between Africa and the United States by facilitating access to the American market for nearly 6,500 African products. But in reality, the results remain mixed. Although African exports reached $10 billion in 2022 thanks to this regime, they remain largely dominated by crude oil. Only 5 countries account for 3/4 of non-oil exports, thanks to already established sectors such as textiles. South Africa, the leading beneficiary with 21% of its American exports under this regime, maintains its advantages. beyond economic considerations, this escalation of Sino-American tensions involves major geopolitical issues for Africa. The continent could find itself at the heart of increased rivalry between the two powers for access to markets and strategic resources, complicating regional balances. In this volatile context, African countries will need to demonstrate resilience and pragmatism to preserve their economic and geopolitical interests while continuing their efforts towards a sustainable energy transition, crucial for their long-term development.